The title of my presentation is The Emotional Traumas of the Foster Care System. Before I start this presentation, I want to give the disclaimer that it is not my intent to cast a negative shadow on the foster care system, but I think that if we're going to be consistent, we have to both list those things which are good and also those things which are not good. I know people who were adopted, who went through the foster care system, and they grew up to be great human beings. They went on to live productive lives. They went on to be successful. And just as much as that is a reality for some, another reality is that there are many in the foster care system that has been done an injustice because the system can be a broken system as it relates to particular situation and circumstances. So I didn't just want to spout off statistics and give all these numbers as it relates to how that would make my paper or my presentation look, but I dug deep. I searched for several days for something that I thought would be pertinent to the presentation, something that would hit home, and that would be applicable to what it was that I was trying to say. Again, I don't want to be partial. I want to remain impartial, but I want to list the facts as best I can as it relates to these individuals that I will talk about in this presentation. In the U.S., according to a survey that was done in 2022, there were 391,651 kids in the foster care system. But in 2017 and 18, there were as many as 437,000 children in the foster care system. In the U.S. today, in 2024, there are 355,000 children in the foster care system. And so the numbers have dropped down. They're a little less than 40,000 now, but those are the numbers. This Christian organization that I was researching, I found this on the internet. It says that every child should grow up with the care and protection of a family. And that's true. Every child should. But the reality of it is that's not always what the case is. Every child doesn't grow up in a loving family with loving parents and surrounded by love and situations and circumstances such as that. But there are some, unfortunately, who go into the system, and as I stated earlier, the system does them a disservice. I want to talk about an individual named Hunter who grew up in California having the largest number of children in the foster care system as of today, almost doubling the numbers in Texas. We know that California is a huge state, and so we understand why that is the case. But Hunter pretty much grew up in the foster care system. Her and her sister, who was 7 years older than her, and from the very start, she was abused as a child. She was neglected. She was denied food. She was locked up in closets. She was just mistreated all around. And what I didn't know about the foster care system was that when a family decides to adopt a child, the family receives money from the government. And what is interesting about Hunter's situation is that Hunter was never bought any new clothes. She was never allowed to get her hair done. And because of it, when living with various foster families, she was made fun of. They would use the money on their children. And what's interesting is that even with having another child in the house, the foster parents would always show favoritism or partiality to their own kids. And so in Hunter's situation, she was denied things, but the biological children weren't. The biological children were allowed to grow up, to have all the amenities that children have growing up in the house with their parents. But unfortunately, Hunter wasn't. Hunter was in and out of the foster care system, in and out of group homes. And when she turned 15, she ran away. Hunter had been not only physically abused, mentally abused, but she was also sexually abused by one of her foster fathers. Again, when she was 15, she ran away. She began to prostitute. She even did, I think, 3 months in jail. But while prostituting, she was hit by a car. She was in the hospital for several months. And it was just a never-ending cycle of basically what she had gone through as a child and would later have to deal with as an adult. As it stands, Hunter has children of her own. At the writing of her book, Relentless, she was in a homeless shelter with her children, trying to find a better way to get out of that. And what I understand about the things that I've read is simply this, that children who grow up in the foster care system that are abused are least likely to succeed in life because of the emotional and physical and mental traumas that are perpetuated on them. Now, again, that's not all children that go through those things, but there's an overwhelming majority that do. Which brings me to my next person that I want to talk about. His name is Matt. Matt began and excuse me for being a little crass, but in his book, Matt details having a sexual relationship with his grandfather, a man who should have protected him at all costs at the age of 2. And what I found in reading these stories and studying for this presentation is that many children, before they even go into the foster care system, have already gone through trauma. Matt's mom was a bartender who would leave him in the house by himself, and when he wasn't by himself, he would stay with his grandfather. And Matt was taken from his mother's house, I believe at the age of 5, and put in the foster care system. And like Hunter, beaten, locked up in the closet, denied food, mentally, physically, sexually abused, not only by the people that he lived with, but also children in the foster care system as well. And then the next person that I want to talk to is Gino. Gino, kind of the same story as Matt and Hunter, but he was mentally abused. He was constantly told that he wouldn't amount to anything, that he wouldn't be anything, that he wouldn't make anything of his life. But unlike Hunter, Gino would later eventually be adopted by a loving a woman. And Gino ended up marrying a man. And at the writing of his book, or at the conclusion of his book, Gino actually went to the courthouse and signed papers with he and his foster mother, and he took her last name, and the judge made it as if paperwork-wise that he was birthed by that woman. And so Gino is thriving. Matt, he had a few stints with the law, but he's also thriving as well. Dr. Martin is an exception to the other 3 that I mentioned in this presentation. Dr. Martin was an educator who noticed 2 children that were in her class, very disengaged, not really learning much. And after having a meeting with a sibling of one and the family of the other one, they realized that they had been taken from their families and they were just trying to do the best that they could. And this prompted Dr. Brenda Martin to begin interviewing people, students who had been in the foster care system, who had been in group homes, and she wanted to detail the psychological traumas, the emotional and mental traumas, and also the sexual traumas. And what she got from these interviews, she said that everyone that she interviewed said that it was kind of cathartic and they were, going through the healing process, being able to talk about the things that they had gone through. And so in interviewing these people, it prompted Dr. Martin and her family to become foster parents. And in becoming foster parents, they had a first-hand experience in dealing with children with trauma. And so she went on to write a book. She started a nonprofit organization. Today, she's still a foster parent. She's done training all over the world and in other foreign countries. And so in her book, she literally documents her experience as it relates to the children that she had encountered that had been in the foster care system. And so in conclusion of this presentation, what I want to say is, again, that I know people who were adopted or who were in a foster care system that became productive people in society. They went on to be successful and to live normal lives. But on the other hand, we cannot forget those who struggle because of the abuse, both mentally, physically, sexually. We cannot forget and ignore the abuse that these people have gone through. And it is the reason why some of them are having trouble living in society today. And so as we continue to go on with our lives, let us remember those who are in foster care, those who are thriving, as well as those who are struggling, and let's keep them in prayer. Let's pray for our foster care system, that it help those children to be happy and whole and not broken and incomplete. Thank you, and God bless.